as the UN COP28 climate summit gets underway in Dubai. Across Africa, as indeed the world, the impact of climate change is becoming ever more apparent. We see desert encroachment and flooding here in Nigeria and many parts of Africa. In September, several thousand people died in Libya when torrential rain caused 2 dams to collapse. Algeria and Tunisia have endured some of the highest ever temperatures, approaching 50 degrees Celsius. And the Horn of Africa, which is only just recovering from a lengthy drought, is now submerged in El Nino floods. So how can Nigeria and other African and Caribbean nations persuade industrialized countries to implement previously agreed promises to help developing countries adapt to the worst impacts of climate change?
As South Africa, we applaud the landmark decision of COP28 to operationalize the new fund on loss and damage, and we also welcome the pledges that have already been made. If this fund is to effectively support those countries most vulnerable and that are affected by climate change, we need to mobilize more funding in a much greater scale.
We seem to talk about climate change as a future threat. However, Somalia as a country on the front line of the devastating effects of the extreme climate events, it is a reality.
And of course, President Tinubu is expected to speak at that gathering sometime soon, and Arise News will, of course, bring you that when that happens. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now in the studio by the President of the Association of Environmental Protection and Climate Change Experts, Vice Marshal Akugbe Iyamu, who is also the former Acting Director General of the Nigerian Emergency Management Agency, NEMA. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
So beautiful to be here.
COP28 Global Climate Summit now underway in Dubai, a huge moment for the world to consider what we are doing to ourselves as the planet warms to an incredibly dangerous rate.
Yeah, two great events. Trying to look at whether we are on course to the goals of the Paris Agreement and trying to get the negotiations that will help the poor countries for loss and damage. We cannot talk of COP28 without talking of COP27. COP27 was the watershed. It was the precursor to saving the developing countries, to bringing them in. But as it is, you see, when they got there, when they left, what happened? Nothing. But you find out in COP28, it was expected. On the first day, the UAE dropped 100 billion. Germany dropped 100 billion.
No, million, not billion.
Billion?
No, they didn't drop 100 billion. They were dropping millions.
No, I think it's billion.
No, it's not billion.
So,
the entire fund is supposed to be 100 billion, and they're dropping 100 million each.
By the end of the day, 456
million
has been dropped.
Yeah, $1 million, not billion.
What is essential now is that they've budgeted 5 to 7 trillion US dollars to green the economy. Now, greening the economy means that they are going to give special drawing rights to the developing countries. Special drawing rights. And again, to the multilateral development banks is going to have this money. Right? The multilateral development bank were all formed after the first World War. What are they doing? To give funds for development, and most of them have now entered into development of energy.
Well, actually, you've hit a very key point there, because how to access that fund is now going to be the issue. I understand that, there are concerns that politics could play a part, because oftentimes money is there, but accessing it is the most difficult part.
That is why you have special drawing rights. You see, before now, Emmanuel Macron has, getting the ignition trigger to tell you that, look, when these multilateral development banks were set up, most of these countries were not in existence. And the laws now there was no COVID-19, and there was no war in the Ukraine. So most of these people are so challenged by development. They are so challenged by development. So they don't have money, even if the climate change should come. That is, the crisis of the climate change should come. They are not going to be able to do it. If you are a least developing country, that your per capita income is $1,080 per head, what are you going to do? You in the first place, you even have challenge to access the fund. To access the fund, because nobody will give you fund, because whatever you want to do, you will not be able to on the terms that you would have brought there. So it's a big challenge. So the fund that is coming in now is very, very useful, because COP28, first of all, what are they doing? They are stock taking, number one. They are looking at the future of fossil fuel. They are creating technology to be able to manage carbon emission, putting money for greener energy and climate financing.
But what does that place countries like Nigeria that are dependent on fossil fuels for its income, its foreign exchange earnings?
Let me ask you a question. Do you think fossil fuel will go in the nearest future? The answer is no. See, there are 72,000 cars, hydrogen-operated cars in the world now. How do you get the hydrogen? You are using fossil fuel to power the engine that is bringing it. So it's not going to. See, what Nigeria and other countries should do is to lobby for the retention of fossil fuel. The UK, Germany, and all, what are they doing? They've reversed their own target.
Yeah, but I'm surprised that you're saying that when you're a climate activist. I mean, you're saying that they should lobby to retain fossil fuels when the whole point of COP28 is to phase out fossil. I mean, you heard the UN Secretary General today saying that people have to move as a matter of urgency from fossil fuels to greener energy.
Moving to green energy. You see, 1 out of every 10 of these developing countries have not been able to meet a whole lot of things because of poverty. Now, what we are saying now is that the fossil fuel is where is the developing countries going to get the money to establish their green, they're moving on to renewable energy. Even if you do the renewable energy, what are you going to use to transport it? It's not fossil fuel.
But doesn't that undermine the argument that the biggest polluters are in the West and the biggest victims of climate change are in Africa?
That is why the Secretary General of the UN said that whatever happened in Antarctica does not stay in the Antarctica anymore, because the ice are melting. But for fossil fuel, they need the developing countries need the money to be able to get to the renewable. What the world is now supposed to do is to get a balance. To be able to get a balance is going to be transitional, going little by little. You see, now when they deploy that 5 to 7 trillion greening the economy, you see, climate change has become transactional. That is why the blue carbon, you had the blue carbon buying almost 20%, the size of UK, buying the forest in Zambia, Zimbabwe, Kenya, and Liberia, buying it. The biodiversity and everything. So it is transactional. It's look, give and take. What do we do? You take a little and we take a little.
But it's not that. I mean, when you reduce it to those terms, it takes away the urgency of the situation, because the key thing here is that the planet is warming and that it must be reduced dramatically, that warming process. Otherwise, we're all in deep trouble. That's why you're getting floods and, droughts and all kinds of horrendous things happening across the world. And unless you try and prevent that warming process from accelerating, you're going to have a real big problem. And from what I'm hearing you saying, you don't sound like you think there's any urgency. I mean, you talk about it as a transactional process.
Yes, there is urgency. Let us not get to the stage that you have to decide whether to fight climate change or to fight poverty. That is why this funding, they are all coming in. They are all coming in to give a tailwind to the developing countries. They already know. You see, Now, you look at everything. Poverty is everywhere. Most of them, you see, like I told you, the least developed countries now, they cannot do a whole lot of things. They are cash-strapped. They are cash-strapped. So the money that have been promised all the while, if we have to do everything, now we're at COP28 now, doing a whole lot of things. For it to be meaningful, you have to go back and do what you promised before getting here.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, we'll have to watch and see what happens. Air Vice Marshal Akugbe Iyamu, President of the Association of Environmental Protection and Climate Change Experts, I want to thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you very
for
much.
having me.